Hey guys, Poro here, back again for week 10 of the LoL Esports Global Power Rankings. There were a lot of upsets and interesting games, so it'll be interesting to go through what the changes are. I also want to mention that I will be doing MSI predictions, as in which teams I think will make it in, as well as playoffs predictions, and when MSI rolls around, how I think MSI will go, so look forward to those. But for now, let's get into these rankings. In 25th, sticking around in the same spot as before, is Astralis. They are 3-3, wins against Koi, G2, and Vitality, losses against SK, BDS, and MAD. The important thing to note here is that those 7 teams that you see on the screen right now are most likely going to be the top 7 teams from the LEC. What that means is that Astralis' last round robin will be XL, Fnatic, and Heretics, meaning that in all likelihood Astralis will finish 6-3, meaning that they're in a strong spot for the group stage. In 24th, making their triumphant return to the list, is WE. They got booted off the list, I think, all the way back in week 6 was when I first kicked them off the list, and they've been hanging around that bubble area after having a couple of losses, but they've continued to steadily win games that they're supposed to win, and lose against not super bad teams, except for anyone's legend, so they've hung around that bubble spot, and with RNG's most recent loss, WE moves their way up. In 23rd from the LEC is SK. They're 4-2, so holding down the fort pretty well. We'll see how the rest of their split goes, but for now they're looking to be a middle-tier LEC team. In 22nd is PSG Talon, who moves up by doing absolutely nothing. There were 0 PCS games this week, however, enough teams lost that PSG Talon moves up a spot or 2 just for free. 21st from the LCS is FlyQuest, who are finally put as the second team in the LCS after losing back-to-back to Cloud9, once in regular season and then once in a tiebreaker. 20th from the LPL is IG. This week they had 2 losses, 1 to Ninjas in Pajamas and 1 to LNG. The Ninjas in Pajamas loss is bad on paper, and the LNG was a 2-0 stomp. However, You Should Know Me, which is IG's star top laner, was sick this week, so he was sick during the Ninjas in Pajamas series, and then he was subbed out for Nenny in the LNG series. So while these 2 games are losses, they are not as bad losses as they would appear, so I don't want to jip IG too much for those. Completing the first round robin undefeated is Gigabyte Marines, and we'll have to see if they can continue this streak in the second round robin and into MSI. 18th from the LEC is Vitality. They did lose their showdown to G2, but they are still 4-2, so they get to stick around near the top of the LEC for now. In 17th, cementing themselves at the top of the LCS is Cloud9. They are 15-4, and as we went over, they beat FlyQuest twice, once in regular season, and again in tiebreakers, meaning that they are now at the top of the table with their new mid laner MNS. In 16th is BDS. It's a little bit of an odd placement because, like SK, they are 4-2, and as you can see, they have a loss to SK, so it would make sense for SK to be above them. However, BDS's game against G2 was very, very close. BDS was up a lot of gold, up 3 dragons, and then they lost a soul fight, which tipped the entire game in G2's favor. But more likely than not, BDS is able to close that game out and be 5-1, and because the game was so close, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt and leaving them near the top of the LEC. 15th from the LCK is Live Sandbox, who had a very underwhelming second half round robin, but they are still in LCK playoffs, so we'll have to see how they do against KT in the first round. In 14th, at 8-6, tied with many other LPL teams, is ThunderTalk Gaming. They're still holding down the fort with those few strong wins and none of their losses being bad losses. In 13th, and still the most consistent team in the LCK, is Hanwha Life Esports, which, other than their upset against T1 earlier this year, they've proven that they cannot beat any of the top teams, but they will not lose to any teams worse than them either. In 12th, still at the top of the LEC, is G2, who are 4-2, wins against Vitality and BDS, which I think are the second and third strongest teams in the LEC right now, and then losses to Koi and Vitality. Staying in the same spot as last week is OMG, who lost a series to EDG, unsurprisingly. 10th is Top Esports, 8-6. They had 2 losses this week, but they were to BLG and ThunderTalk, so those are not bad losses. However, this does mean that Top Esports exits the conversation for one of the top tier LPL teams. 9th from the LPL is BLG, who end up moving up here because of their win against Top Esports. 8th place is Weibo Gaming with a similar record, but some of their wins are stronger on paper, so they get to stay above BLG for now. They also, unlike BLG, did not have a midseason slump. Weibo have been pretty consistently in that top 4, top 5 spot all year, whereas BLG did have a dip into the middle of the pack earlier. Seventh from the LCK is Dplus KIA, and as you can see from their wins and losses, there seem to be teams that they have figured out how to beat and teams that they cannot beat. So they have not won against Gen.G or T1 at all, and they have not lost to Hanwha Life, which is good for Dplus KIA because that is their opponent in the first round. In sixth, taking a massive shot on the ranking list is EDG, who were second, but this week they had 1 win, 1 loss, a win to OMG, and then a loss to one of the bottom teams in the LPL, FPX. Because of EDG's loss, KT moves up to 5th place. Again, I would like to stress that KT is not a coin flip team anymore, as other than their loss to Kwangdong Freaks in Week 3, they've seemed to have pulled it together and are winning every game that they're supposed to win and only dropping games to top tier teams. In 4th is Gen.G, and as you can see, like Dplus KIA, they are very, very organized. They have 2 wins against Liv, 2 wins against DK, 2 wins against Hanwha Life, 2 losses against T1, and 2 losses against KT, meaning that they have teams that they can beat and teams that they can't. In 3rd from the LPL is LNG. They are 11-3, a strong record. However, they do have a loss to JDG that keeps them from being at the top of the LPL. And there they are, JDG, who also have 3 losses, but they do have that win against LNG, and they have a few more impressive wins on their resume. Of course, at the top in number 1 is T1. They are now 17-1. And it's expected that they'll win playoffs, but we'll see what happens. And with that, that is the list. As always, here is the list from 1 to 25 so you can see for yourself. That's all I've got for you this time, so I will see you in a next video, probably this week, with some playoffs predictions.